I know I'm a little late. I'll do what I can to get an earlier start. But good morning to those joining. Austin, first to comment on X. So good morning. We've got others in the YouTube chat room live. We'll do it live. Dave, Till Valhalla, Ed, Roman, Eduardo, Peter, Tattooed Squirrel, Roman, Duckman, Friedman Brock. Good morning. I got your tweet or your DM. It is bizarre. TK Trucker rather, James Bond, Sean, Randall. Okay, we can go through the entire list. Appreciate you guys being here. Good morning, Instructor Mike. Okay, so a couple of segments. One, we're gonna do a council corral of the village of Dalton. Last night, things turned into chaos as a measure to override Mayor Tiffany Henyard's veto of an ordinance to call former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot in to investigate, while the FBI is also investigating. So things turned pretty chaotic last night. We'll get into that. And then we'll also share with you the latest in the lawsuits against the state's prohibition of slating candidates. There was a hearing yesterday as you have the various candidates hoping to get on the November ballot filing with the Illinois State Board of Elections. So those are just some of the stories that we will tackle this morning. And while you guys are here, no real updates on the litigation against Illinois' gun ban. I know a lot of interest in that and what are the next steps. Looking at the Supreme Court yesterday after conference, they did not have the Illinois cases in their order report. So another day, which they go into conference again later on this week, so we could get more in as far as the trajectory of the cases challenging Illinois' gun and magazine ban. So if you look at Chuck Michel, who's an attorney who's been fighting against gun laws across the country for some time, he posted on X that SCOTUS relisted the Illinois cases again. They are now set for June 6th, the same day that a different case was already scheduled. So that's the new 2A day at SCOTUS. SCOTUS should or could do several things: deny cert requests of all cases, grant certs on any or all cases, hold one or more again until Rahimi comes down, and possibly GVR one or more of these cases, or do some other things. Stay tuned. So that's really kind of the latest posture of where we're at in the litigation against Illinois' gun ban. No new developments in the Southern District, where they're dealing with the issue on the merits. You had the state file one of their experts on Friday with the 115-page, the filing from their expert. So it's what, like 1,000 pages or so that the state has of experts putting, all kinds of information to the courts. And all of this, we're going to see come to a head as a potential trial on the merits in the Southern District advances. But all of that could be thrown aside, or at least temporarily on hold, whatever the U.S. Supreme Court ultimately does. If they grant certs in these cases, or if they say, you know what, we're going to let the lower courts determine what's going on, rush it through the appeals court again on the merits, and then get it to the U.S. Supreme Court. While they've also got a slew of other cases across the country dealing with the Second Amendment that could very well, bring different types of relief depending on where those things go. So fascinating to see that. Again, no real, hardcore updates on the litigation against Illinois' gun ban, other than the U.S. Supreme Court relisted the cases, and they are going to move forward in the Southern District, continuing on with the merits of the case, while the U.S. Supreme Court's dealing with the preliminary issues. And I want people to really understand that, right? Because you have preliminary motions that were made to block the law, and that's what the U.S. Supreme Court is considering right now. While in the lower court, you've got the merits being what's ultimately tackled by Judge Stephen McGlenn. So again, just to reiterate what Chuck Michel had to say, SCOTUS relisted Illinois cases, now set for June 6th, the same day a different gun case is already scheduled. So that's the new 2A day at SCOTUS. SCOTUS could do several things: deny the cert requests on any or all the gun cases, grant cert for any and all cases, hold one or more again until Rahimi comes down, and possibly GVR one or more of these cases. So I guess we shall see ultimately what transpires next week when the U.S. Supreme Court releases orders from their conference that's going to happen, I believe, Thursday? So another day, that's for darn sure. All right, guys, appreciate it. We will be back to talk about the lawsuit against the state's prohibition of slating candidates. Talked with Jeffrey Schwab from the Liberty Justice Center yesterday, and you can find that story at thecentersquare.com. Stay tuned. We'll get to that coming up here in just moments. Last month, the Illinois legislature gutted a bill dealing with DCFS and replaced the language in there, changing election law mid-election year. And within 3 days, Governor J.B. Pritzker had enacted that bill. He called it an ethics bill. But what it really did is it blocked individuals from being slated for the November election if they did not run in the March primary. Well, that law is blocked right now, and a county judge could declare that the law is not right and continue to block the law after a hearing yesterday while candidates went and slated at the Illinois State Board of Elections. I'm Greg Bishop. It's Bishop on Air. Thanks for hanging out with me each and every weekday morning. Like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. I do this on my own time, but if you follow me at X or on Facebook, you'll know that I post a lot of articles from thecentersquare.com, which is where I'm the associate editor. It's a nonprofit newswire service, and I encourage you to get the newsletter. I encourage you to donate as well as a nonprofit. We do what we can to be on the ground and report on what's going on with state government and your tax dollars. But here's the story yesterday. Ruling on Illinois candidate slating prohibition could come this week. So background, last month, the legislature passed that bill and the governor enacted it. And it says that you cannot slate a candidate in the November election if they didn't run in the primary. So if you look back at the primary, Illinois actually had more than half of the state house seats that were up for grabs. More than half of them were not really competitive. The party was already chosen. So if it was a Democrat incumbent, most cases, there wasn't anybody challenging the Democrat opponent in the Democrat primary. And there was no Republican candidate at all in the primary. So voters went to the polls, and if they were selected a Republican candidate, there was no Republican candidate on the ballot for their jurisdiction. So this happened in more than half of the state, house, and Senate seats where the party was already determined. Well, if there was nobody on the primary for the Republicans, then the Republican Party locally could go ahead and say, you know what, we're going to slate somebody for the November election. This has been the case for a long time. Some people don't like it. It's been talked about changing it, and sure, maybe it's ripe for change. But to change it in the middle of an election cycle, that was the question that was ultimately raised and challenged in the courts, where last month a circuit court judge in Sangamon County, where the state government seat is, they put an injunction on the law saying that it's not enforceable while the case plays out, a preliminary injunction, an initial temporary blocking of the law. And they set the case to be heard June 3rd. So the case was heard yesterday. I talked with Jeffrey Schwab from the Liberty Justice Center, who is the counsel on the case, and he argued in court yesterday. Here's a bit of a rundown of what he had to portray how court went.
Okay, well, today before the court were three different motions. Our motion for summary judgment and for permanent injunction. The AG's motion for summary judgment, for cross motion for summary judgment, and intervener Speaker Welch's motion to dismiss. And the court first took up the motion to dismiss. That was argued, and the court entered a judgment or an order denying the motion to dismiss. And then she heard argument on the cross motions for summary judgment and had some questions for each side. And then she said that she would issue a written decision in the next couple of days. So we should get a written decision by the judge sometime this week, we think. and we'll see how that goes. Obviously, she didn't say one way or the other how she's going to rule, but it did sound like she would rule this week. So we will know sometime this week what her decision is, and we will have that in writing.
So again, a little bit of a breakdown of some of the motions here. More from Jeffrey Schwab from Liberty Justice Center.
Yes, it would either because it's cross motions for summary judgment, it would either be a summary judgment motion essentially denying our relief and ruling in favor of excuse me, of the defendants, or a motion granting our motion for summary judgment and finding that were able to prove our case. And what we asked for specifically was declaratory relief that the act that we're challenging, the provisions of the act as applied to the plaintiffs in this 2024 election, is unconstitutional under Article 3, Section 1, which is the right to vote, which includes the right to ballot access. And then an injunction, a permanent injunction that would prohibit enforcing those provisions of the act against our plaintiffs for this 2024 election.
So Schwab, of course, giving us a bit of an understanding here of how the motions could come down. But why is this important?
Well, I think the important thing about this case is that what happened here was the legislature passed this law in the middle of the election. So it changed in the middle of the process. So there were, in our case, we have 14 plaintiffs. They were nominated by the Republican Party to fill these as slated candidates in these districts, and they got the nomination. They went through the process of starting to get signatures, but before they could file the petition on the due date, which is today, the legislature changed the law and essentially pulled the carpet out from under them, saying, "Well, this process is no longer valid, so you can't use it." Problem with that, obviously, is that they relied on the process, and changing it obviously benefits whoever they were running against, because this would guarantee there are no Republican candidates on the ballot. It would be almost impossible for them to become independent candidates or third-party candidates. One, because if they voted in the Republican primary or a Republican primary, then they're prohibited from doing that in this election. And two, because the deadline's 3 weeks from today, and the number of signatures that they would have to get is significantly more than the number of signatures they'd have to get to be the Republican candidate. And so it's virtually impossible for them to do that. And so it's likely that no third-party candidate, no independent candidate will run. So effectively, this will guarantee that there's only one person on the ballot for these elections. And in general, if nobody wants to run, that's fine. But the legislature and the governor can't change the law in the middle of the process to ensure that there won't be any candidates on the Republican side in this case, but on either side. And that's also why, by the way, that we didn't bring a challenge to the law in general, because in the future, everybody will know that this process isn't available. And that may be a good thing. I know that this historically has been used by Speaker Madigan as a way to sort of tilt the balance in his party's favor, and so I can see why people don't like it. But and that's fine, and they can change the law, but they can't take it away in the middle of the process.
So Schwab, again, talking about the lawsuit that was heard yesterday in Sangamon County, with the state defending it and the plaintiff saying, no, it's unconstitutional. A judge going to make a determination in the days ahead. Flashing back to before Governor J.B. Pritzker enacted this, this is what he had to say he thought about the bill. Again, that gutted a child welfare bill and replaced it with a mid-year election change measure.
Well, as I understand that bill, and again, it just got put through, I think, yesterday, and I haven't seen the details of it. But as I understand, this is actually an ethics bill. It really does make sure that we don't have backroom deals to put people on the ballot and run as a result of some small group of people in a smoke-filled room making the choice. So I think, to me, more transparency is better.
So again, he talked about this being an ethics bill, and it's a bill that others said is election interference. But Schwab, he says that bottom line, this is a question about fairness.
No, I mean, I think that this is a pretty straightforward case, and I think everybody kind of will recognize that it's just in the interest of fairness that the government shouldn't be allowed to change the rules in an election in the middle of the process. It's fine if they want to change future rules, if they want to make things a little more fair or better, or they think that this process is unfair. That's fine. But once the process starts, you can't change it and take it away from people. And that's exactly what they did here. And they didn't need to do that. They could have just said, they could have passed it. They said, this is a bad thing. We don't like slating. And after this election, it won't be used anymore. And we wouldn't have had to bring this lawsuit.
So next steps, if the judge rules one way or the other, Schwab, he says he can't say whether or not she's going to grant their request or the state's request. But you could see this move on to the next steps.
Right. Now, obviously, we don't know what the judge is going to do. So I think that it's safe to say if she does rule against us, that we will almost certainly appeal. But I can't say what, if we get a ruling in our favor, what the attorney general or the intervener might do. So obviously, we'll have to wait and see what the judge does first.
Well, that's because time is of the essence. The election's November 5th. Candidates just filed their slating yesterday. And if you want to find the entire list, you can go to my X account and follow me there. You could see, as of yesterday, I think yesterday afternoon or so, filed were a whole host of candidates facing off with Democrats if they make the ballot. So go and find to see if your district is one of these districts. Again, go to thecentersquare.com and you'll see the entire list of candidates that are filing to get on the ballot. So a little bit of an update for you on that measure here with Bishop on Air. Greatly appreciate you guys being here. And be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, all right? Make it happen. Chaos erupting at the village of Dalton last night after village trustees overrode the mayor's veto of hiring former Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot to come in and investigate financial questions within the village of Dalton. It's Bishop on Air. An interesting kind of council corral here. As maybe I get back into doing council corrals, and maybe I do it looking at local governments from across the state. It's a tall order, but hey, you know, somebody's got to kind of give you some of that context and whatnot. So I'm glad to be able to do that. So last night's pretty contentious meeting. If you're not familiar with what's going on in the village of Dalton, you've got Tiffany Henyard, who's a mayor there, but also the village trustee for the township. I forget the actual title, but she's the township executive director or something. Regardless, she has a lot of questions surrounding her. Trips to Vegas on public dime. Was she using the right credit card for that? Questionable spending. Also questions of putting pressure on local companies to donate to her political fund. While you've got residents there seeing this, feeling that they're not being heard. And it's been leading some interesting headlines, including from last night, where the village erupted into chaos after nearly 2 hours. Henyard tried to adjourn the meeting, but I don't think an official second was given to that motion in the Roberts Rules of Order, how they conduct these meetings. But there was plenty of consternation. If you don't know that word, look it up. There was plenty of frustration and citizens speaking out. Here's just some of those citizens speaking out from last night's meeting in the village of Dalton.
This has to change, residents. It's going to change with unity of the people of Dalton. That's how we change this. We got to vote her out, period.
We're tired. Am I right? then we've got to act like we're tired. We've got to take our village and our township back in that order. And we've got to get rid of the administration, the current administration.
We need that. And the scary thing about it, you really don't care. You're not going to understand until they put those cuffs on you. You're not going to understand it. You don't care. But baby, they on to you. It's coming. It's coming, and they taking their time because they going to make sure all those counts, they going to have a bunch of counts on you and your administration. And I'm going to tell you something, Stan Brown and Andrew Holmes, being a co-conspirator is real. You can do some time too getting caught up in this mess.
So residents clearly upset, saying that she won't learn her lesson until she's in cuffs. And Mayor Tiffany Henyard firing back, talking about how she grew up in Dalton. She just wants to see Dalton succeed and thrive. And then she cast aspersions on the media.
It saddens me that every time it's disagreement amongst anyone here, we call media. It also saddens me that the media only come out for a mess. I get it. Y'all using me for clickbait and ratings. I wish you guys will come out for the good we do in our community. It's tons of events that I post, that I advocate for, and that I showcase, because y'all literally go on my Facebook page, my Instagram page, my Tiffany on the Move podcast page, and you take my clips and use it to bring people into your stations. I think now you guys owe me a check, news, because you use my likeness and my name just for views. Please showcase the good in our village, because you're putting a black eye on our community. You're putting people, guys, you out of order.
You're out of order.
You're out of order.
One more disruption, I am clearing the room.
So that happened multiple times where law enforcement said any more disruptions and they're going to clear the room. What's interesting there is Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard talking about how the media should compensate her for using content she makes. The question there is this content on taxpayer-funded accounts, or is she off on the side with a private account that she's, making revenue from? And she's a public figure. She's an elected official. It's one thing that, if a private movie star wants to, prohibit people from using their content so that they can continue to make a living off that content without it being pirated. Totally get that. But this is public information. She's a public official. But regardless, more from Tiffany Henyard.
People sell you what they want you to believe at that moment. I got clips and all kinds of stuff people send me, believe it or not. I'm making a video for you so you can see what I mean about the news. It's a ton of things going on in the world. We should really be focusing on that and banding together. I'm about unity. That's why you see me always positive, head held high, and always walking in my purpose. God gave me the opportunity to be the first.
So again, she's talking about how she's going to produce a video with clips, and is that going to be taxpayer funded in the village of Dalton? But what's happening is the village of Dalton, and I don't have all the background just from reading various headlines, you got trustees there elected by the people locally, demanding information about how spending is happening, while Henyard is demanding that they spend on things. One in particular, one trustee raised that there was a tree that was getting trimmed for $1,000, and the next month that same tree then cost $10,000. And then she said, what you do to us time and again is you tell us to vote on the budget last minute after we have been asking to see the budget, and we don't get the budget until last minute. You put the pressure on to vote for it, and you wonder why we don't vote on it because you tell us not even to read it. It's kind of a microcosm of sorts, what happens with Illinois state government, I guess. But regardless, lots of questions, and the Q&A back and forth seemed to just erupt into more frustration and chaos.
Q&A, I should ask before we get here, because
It ain't really no Q&A because you're not answering no questions.
Out of order. Chief Freeman responded to you, so that's clearly he's answering questions. But okay, if y'all not gonna do that, let's move on. All right, call the roll.
We're still in discussion.
Yeah, we have discussion. Okay.
So it then continued from there, more frustration, and they get to the motion to override Mayor Tiffany Henyard's veto of a measure trustees approved to call and hire the former mayor of Chicago, Lori Lightfoot, to come in and investigate Henyard.
Go ahead.
Okay.
as I hear, we have an investigation going on by the FBI at this time over the village. Is that what's going on right now?
We do.
The investigation is on allegations of, it was stated previously that there was an investigation done into what happened in Vegas, basically. So that investigation has not been shared with the board, and the board has made several inquiries. So that's one part of it. Also, the allegations or suspicion of commingling of funds or misuse of funds was another component of the request for this investigation.
So some detail there about what the FBI is investigating, and the trustee who asked, don't we have an FBI investigation ongoing? Seeming to say, well, that should be plenty. You know, we've got the FBI investigation ongoing. Why have a separate investigation that's going to cost taxpayers, what, $400 an hour to hire Lori Lightfoot to come in and investigate? So they went ahead with the vote to override, and again, more chaos.
This is the override, right?
This is
The override of the veto.
Override of the veto. Call the roll.
Okay.
That's it. That's it.
Okay. Call the roll, Clerk Key.
Trustee Norwood. Aye. Trustee Stan Brown.
No.
Trustee Tammy Brown.
Aye.
Trustee House.
Aye.
Trustee Holmes. Trustee Belcher.
Aye.
Motion passed to
All
override
right.
Mayor's veto.
Next on the agenda is motion to adjourn. Is there a motion?
She goes
Is there
right
a
into a
motion
motion
to
to
adjourn?
adjourn.
I have a motion to suspend the rules.
All right.
Second.
Interesting.
Aye.
Do you have a motion to adjourn?
There was no second.
No, motion to suspend the
adjourn.
rules.
There was a motion to adjourn and a second to
Guys,
suspend
we're
the
done
rules.
with the meeting. All the grandstanding can stop. It's over with.
Wow.
So that's it. Can I have
Okay,
a
let's
motion
go.
to adjourn?
So again, she asked for a motion to adjourn. Nobody motioned to adjourn. Somebody else put a motion on the board to say a motion to suspend the rules. Somebody seconded that motion, and you're not recognizing that, and instead demanding a motion to adjourn.
It has been motioned. Is there a second?
It wasn't a motion to adjourn, Mayor.
We gonna clear the room in a minute. We're gonna clear the room.
Let her speak.
And you can hear "Let Her Speak"
God,
being
let her
chanted,
speak.
and that was because Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot was in the audience, and after the village overrode the mayor's veto, she stood up and wanted to speak, and one of the trustees handed their mic to Lori Lightfoot, who's off camera from the village's camera shot here, but you can hear just in the final moments of the meeting the chaos, and then the mayor being ultimately swifted out of there.
Thank you.
Y'all will be.
What I would say is that it's an honor to be working on behalf of the residents of Dalton.
There's no respect. here, and that's the
Rested
thing,
while
because you was
this
once the mayor
procedural
too.
matter
You
is
should
in
not even
limbo,
be
and we're not going to
disrespectful like
allow anyone to stop us
that.
and obstruct our ability to get to the facts. So thank you for your confidence, and we will continue working. Even though they turned the mics off, we will continue working on behalf of the residents of Dalton, and we will give you the facts that you deserve.
Okay, y'all done now? Y'all done with the grandstanding? Are y'all done with the grandstanding? All this was grandstanding. All this was plotted. Don't y'all see the political play right here? She was once the mayor of Chicago. She come here to create chaos. Think about it. But yet we sit here and we do this. Why we pay anybody any money if y'all have the actual people, meaning the FBI's here? So why would we waste money that y'all say we don't have? All right, guys. All right. Clear the room.
Clear the room, she says.
Clear the room, guys. This meeting's adjourned. Everybody out. That's
She
what I
says
told
this
y'all.
meeting's adjourned,
It's time to
everybody
go.
out. And then she is swiftly taken out of the chamber. And we'll pull this up so you can see this, because it's pretty wild. I don't think I've ever seen this before.
Time to go.
Some kind of security guy. I don't know who that is. Wearing a t-shirt and a hat. Escorting her out of the room. You can hear people in the background, a few swear words. And then the microphones go dark. And next thing you know, you get to the village board meeting slate. So that's what happened last night in Dalton. Chaos. And Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot, the former mayor of the Windy City, apparently now going to get $400 an hour to investigate. And one of the reasons that the trustees wanted the investigation from Lori Lightfoot, they said, was because they've been asking for questions to be answered by the FBI, but the FBI is not really sharing anything, right? They are meticulous in their investigations, and they want to make sure that they've got all the particulars together before they bring any kinds of charges, and they're not going to reveal that even to the trustees. So there we are. There's the Village of Dalton on display after last night's meeting was abruptly adjourned, and we'll let you kind of just sit with that. All right. It's council corral of sorts. Appreciate you guys being here. Like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. I'm Greg Bishop. It is Bishop on Air. And follow me anywhere. Just search Bishop on Air, and we can connect that way, all right? So appreciate you. Email me, bishoponair@gmail.com. Appreciate you being here as always. Those sticking around to the very last bit. 225 people watching across the various outlets. X, Bishop on Air. Also on Rumble. Somebody asked if I was on Rumble. I don't know how many people are watching live there. I'll have to check those numbers somewhere else, but regardless. It doesn't matter, just as long as you guys are able to stay informed. So I appreciate you being here. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Also, go and subscribe to the Center Square and get that regular newsletter so that you are up to date what's going on in Illinois. But also check out the national headlines. Plenty of stuff there. And actually reporting out of practically every state in the country. So go to thecentersquare.com. I got to get out of here. We'll see what transpires over the next 24 hours. All right, so we'll see you guys later. Peace out.